It's 8:02 a.m. on Sunday morning. You guys are probably, I mean, I'd like to assume you guys are in church because God is good and God is great, but you're probably sleeping. Some of you are trying to sleep away that hangover. Some of you might be in church. I don't know. Do any of you guys go to church? Did any of your parents uh, instill a certain amount of guilt? I don't have this. I don't have the guilt, but some people, some of my friends, they only go to church because they don't want their grandparents. Like, I'm convinced that 95% of people under the age of 30 who go to church every Sunday are only going to church until their grandmother dies. Like, as soon as their grandma's in the ground, they are no longer setting that alarm clock on Saturday night. They're not going to do it anymore. They just don't want to break their grandmother's heart. I'm pretty sure that's like I'm going to say 80%. 80% of people under the age of 30 who attend church every Sunday are only doing so because their grandma is still alive and they don't want to send her to the grave with a broken heart. And as soon as that bitch is underground, they no longer go to church. That's what I'm assuming. And I think they do one of those things too where they say, "Well, we could just watch it online." And they do, rather, by the way, nowadays, depending on your preference of how to use that phrase, all church is online. The tiniest church in the middle of fucking nowhere will live stream they will live stream church. If you have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, even Twitch, some of the cooler churches are on Twitch. You can watch church from the comfort of your own home, and you can watch church at any time of the day that you want. You decide when you let God into your heart. You know what I mean? And ever since that became a possibility, ever since that technology became accessible, there should be no reason anybody goes to church except for the extremely old. And even most of the old people, have got a fairly decent grasp on how to use Facebook. So there's almost no excuse that any of you are ever in church, like in an actual building. So maybe you say, well, I'll just watch it online. I'll still, God doesn't need it. God can, this could be a house of God. My shitty 2-bedroom apartment with all these cats, it could be the house of the Lord. So then you lie to yourself basically, and for the first couple of months maybe you do actually watch, and you sit there and you have your coffee and you're watching Jesus in the morning. On your phone or on your laptop or whatever, and that's good, right? And then slowly over time, you're not really watching it. You just kind of have it on in the background, and maybe you're looking at your phone, you're scrolling through Twitter. Obviously not this broadcast because you guys can't be bothered, but you're checking your emails, and you look up every once in a while to see if they're still talking about God. Spoiler, they are. And then you go back down to doing whatever. Maybe you're folding some laundry, and then more time passes, and you turn on the Jesus show. And then maybe you go out and check the mail. Yeah, it's Sunday. There's not going to be mail in there, but maybe you forgot to check the mail yesterday. Maybe you even specifically don't check the mail on Saturday, so you will have an excuse to not watch the Jesus show on Sunday morning. So anyway, so you're there, and you go outside to check the mail. Jesus is still on, and then maybe you spark up a conversation with your neighbor, and then your neighbor mentions something about cinnamon rolls, and you're like, wow, I haven't had a cinnamon roll in quite some time. So you go back in the house to grab your keys because you got to get your hands on one of those cinnamon rolls, because if not, you're going to be craving cinnamon rolls all day, and it might be too late in the day to find a quality cinnamon roll. You want to get in there when they first bake them. Freshly baked cinnamon rolls, much better than, stale afternoon cinnamon rolls. So you go there, you go and you check to see if Jesus is still there. You think about pausing it and finishing the Jesus show later when you get back, because the only thing that can make the Jesus show better is hearing about Jesus while enjoying a nice freshly baked cinnamon roll. But then you think, well, then you see how much time's left in the broadcast. You're like, you got another 37 minutes. That's a lot of that's a big chunk of my Sunday. Then you convince yourself you could make it to the donut shop, you can make it to the bakery and back inside of that 37 minutes. So you don't pause it because you don't want to give up your whole day to Jesus, you know what I mean? So you don't pause it. So you grab your keys, you run to the car, you run to the bakery, you get your cinnamon roll, freshly baked, by the way. You get your freshly baked cinnamon roll, and then you run back to the car. And then you're driving home, and you might even be breaking the speed limit because you want to get back there inside of that 37 minutes so you don't let Jesus down. But then you pass a car show. You drive past a car show. It's a free car show. And you're like, well, Jesus Christ, you know what? I don't really like car shows. I'm not a car guy. I don't really care. However, this is a free car show. You don't have to pay to get into this car show. I feel like I would be wasting not just my time, but the people who put this car show on. I would be wasting a lot of people's time if I didn't at least stop in for a couple of minutes. So you check the clock. You're like, Jesus is still on for another 25 minutes. I got time. So you pull in and you're looking at the cars and you don't really care, but you're doing what you can. And then you notice that there's a taco truck there and you're like, well, shit, I just had a cinnamon bun, but tacos, that's a good compliment to a cinnamon bun. There's no better compliment to a cinnamon bun than a fucking taco, especially a $2 taco out of a fucking truck in a parking lot of a car show. Sign me up. So you go there and so you drop a couple bucks, you get yourself a couple tacos, pair it real nicely with that fresh baked cinnamon bun. You eat the tacos and then you realize, oh my God, there's a street fair. There's a street fair right there. What are the odds that a car show and a street fair would be happening in my town at the same time? Holy Lord. And then you say, holy Lord, out of excitement, and that reminds you, oh my God, the Jesus show. So you check the clock, you're like, there's 11 minutes left. I'm only 5 minutes away from my house. I've got time to check out this street fair and still make it home in time to catch the last couple of minutes of the Jesus show, fulfilling my duty as a good Christian. So you go to the street fair and you lose track of time. There's some some beads and some homemade tie-dye T-shirts, and you're looking and you're doing all that stuff, and you realize, oh my God, I'm late. So you race back to the car, you race back to your house, and you've missed it. You realize that you've missed it. The Jesus show has ended. It ended 7 minutes ago. So you think about it. You think about, well, I'll just play. The beauty of having the Jesus show live stream to you is that you can just start it again. But then, if you started it again, you'd have to watch those first, 27 minutes or whatever that you've already seen. And that's just a waste of God's time at that point. You don't want to do that. And I guess you can scrub through and try to find where you left off. And then you realize, you know what? This is not going to happen. This is going to take up way too much time. I'm going to end up getting double Jesus, but also not enough Jesus. I can't do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip this Sunday. I got enough Jesus. I feel like the first 27. I feel like 27 minutes of Jesus is good. I don't want to bother him. This is his day. It is his day, for God's sake. So I'm going to call it even. I'm going to call it good right there. I'm going to end Jesus time now. And next week when this happens again, I might get the cinnamon bun before I press play on the Jesus show, maybe, or if I don't, because it is early, if I don't, I will pause it next time. Next time I will pause it so that I can so I don't feel rushed at the street fair. I'm not assuming there's going to be a street fair every Sunday, but just in case there is another street fair next Sunday or every Sunday, I'm going to pause the Jesus show. That way, I don't miss any Jesus. I don't feel like I'm missing Jesus, but I'm also not speed walking through the street fair. Because I'll be honest with you, there were some nice there were some arts and crafts that I just straight up I just walked right past. There were these little clamshells with googly eyes on them that were probably cheap. And I may have wanted to purchase a couple of those, and I didn't because I speed walked. I speed walked for Jesus, and I ended up missing Jesus anyway. So next week, I'm going to pause. So that's what happens then. And then as time goes by, even more time goes by, you wake up in the morning and you think about watching the Jesus show. You think about watching the Jesus show, and you're like, I'll do it later, but I got to mow this lawn. So then you do that, you mow the lawn, you're like, well, I got all sweaty. I got all sweaty from mowing the lawn. I got to take a shower. So you take a shower. You're like, I'll watch the Jesus show after lunch. And then you have a really big lunch and you don't want to watch the Jesus show because you're tired. There's nothing I like more on a Sunday after a big lunch than a fucking nap. And sometimes my naps last between 45 minutes and, 7-8 hours, right? So you don't want to be groggy going into the Jesus show. You do not want to be groggy going into the Jesus show. So what you do is you don't press play on the Jesus show until after the nap. But then by the time you wake up from your nap, it's time to eat dinner. You don't want to be rude and eat dinner while watching the Jesus show. So you don't press play yet. You have dinner, and before you know it, time's gotten away from you, and it's late Sunday night, and you're thinking, well, Jesus can fill my soul any day of the week. I know he's got dibs on Sunday. But there's no rule that says I can't get Jesus into my heart on a Monday morning. Let's do that. But then, you got work on Monday. Those kids got to get to school. And as time goes by, you just don't watch the Jesus show. And then thankfully, eventually, your grandmother will die. And there will be no reason for you to pretend like you still give a shit about church.